What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are going to talk about what I think are some of the most important parts, whether you are buying or building your new rifle from the ground up. Now, it's not to say that everything is not important when you're doing a fresh build for your AR setup, but there are a few things that are far more important to look at and spend your money on than some other items. And I know some people are going to disagree with me on a lot of this, so go ahead, feel free to disagree. But these are just things over time that I think have been proven time and time again that if you try to cheap out on these items, it can lead to catastrophic failures. Now, me personally, in the career fields I have worked in throughout life, from the military to law enforcement, I've seen everything from Glock pistols to machine guns literally blow up in front of me. I've been the personal beneficiary of a pistol blowing up in my hand, and I can tell you, it is not fun. Now, even though I can look back at those experiences I've had and laugh a little bit, it can be very expensive to fix those items if it doesn't destroy them completely, and it can also be very dangerous and costly to your person, especially if you're not wearing your appropriate safety equipment. Now, when it comes to building your AR, people love names, and names can be good, but that's not always a signifier of the ultimate quality. So what I'm going to talk about today is what you should look for in the quality of parts and those materials when you're building your rifle. But before we get into each one of those individually, we're gonna pay the bills real quick with the help of HRT Tactical. HRT Tactical, sponsor of today's video, longtime supporter of the channel here. They make hard use carriers and kit, whether you are using this stuff for work or training. From modular plate carriers to simplified harnesses to grab on the go and use out there, fit your needs for whatever mission specific stuff you are looking for. HRTtactical.com. Well, first let's talk about what I think is not important, or what is like least important. And I know a ton of people are going to lose their minds in the comments and just absolutely freak out about this. That's going to be the receiver set. And I know people have already lost it in the comments, but as long as the receiver set is built within spec with the proper coatings and treatments on it, it's probably not going to make a huge difference in the function, and it might have minimal difference in the overall performance and accuracy if you've built it and accurized your rifle appropriately. Take, for example, the first rifle I ever built, my Bushmaster here that I've rebuilt more than once, how loose this thing is. The upper and the lower receiver are so sloppy loose that it's almost scary. Yet I've never had a problem out of that, and it's been as accurate as I need it to be. But I do have some fixes for that in the way of this little thing right here that we'll talk about later when we talk about how to make your, maybe not so perfectly fitting rifle feel better. You take that conversely to my SLR B15 ambi set right here, which is not only a work of art, but it is amazingly tight. Probably one of the nicest rifles I own and have built, but it's extremely expensive. Now, where that SLR may feel like a Ferrari and that Bushmaster may feel like a Yugo, again, I'm going to talk about some small things you can do to make your kind of cheaper rifle feel much better or much closer to your more expensive setups out there. And I know a lot of people out there, whether they're builders or on the forums, they like to make fun of people because of the price points of the items they're going for, much like Anderson Manufacturing has a nickname of the Poverty Pony, or what I like to call Stag Arms is the Desperation Deer. And yeah, it's kind of funny, and you can see some savage memes out there. But in all honesty, we should not be making fun of people for their financial status and building what they can afford, because everybody deserves the right to have what they want. And another thing to keep in mind on a lower receiver is looks equal machine time, and machine time equals money. So a lot of these really exotic looking lower and upper receivers with all that cool machine work that look like art, that's why they're so expensive. The machine is turning far more time on that than it is on something that's very basic, say a true mil-spec style lower, whether it's forged or machined. So you're gonna incur that cost. And then some of them will have options like ambi controls or different QD points built into that lower. All of those cost money in the way of machine work and engineering and design. Let's roll into the first one here. Surprise, surprise, barrels. And this makes such a big difference, not only in what you can use that thing for, but the overall quality, accuracy, and the safety of how your build is gonna go. Because when ARs go because of chamber pressures or something's wrong in there, they go. Some of those videos are just scary to look at. Like I said, I've personally had a Glock 21 blow up in my hand. I've seen a guy right next to me where his saw, his 249, just detonated apart. And I've seen ARs go more than once. And it's an interesting experience. It can be a little bit scary. So what causes that, and what do we need to look for in the way of materials and barrels to suit our build the right way? And let's go over what causes something like that. First, you guys kind of have a little bit of understanding. Number one, to cause a catastrophic failure like that, you use the wrong ammo. So there are multiple different barrel types out there. There are ones marked 223, there are ones marked 5.56, and there are hybrids like 223 Wild. If you stick the wrong ammo in the wrong barrel with the wrong powder charge, it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly very quick. A quality barrel manufacturer is going to have that barrel marked. So 223 barrels are not meant to fire 5.56. However, 5.56 marked barrels can handle 223 ammo because they're built for higher pressure. And a 223 Wild is a hybrid that can handle both. So that is something that you need to pay attention to right up front when determining what your build is for. And number two, this happens a lot in the reloading in the competition world. You overpowered your ammo, whether it was Bubba down by the river's reloads, or you were not paying attention to your powder charge, or you didn't check as many rounds as you should have after reloading a few hundred, and you got a double charged round. So if you don't know, the pressures inside of this rifle are like tens of thousands of pounds per square inch on a standard load. Now you up that with double charged powder, and you are going to see catastrophic damage if it doesn't blow the whole upper receiver apart, or blow it in two pieces, or blow the bolt out of there. It's likely going to completely destroy your rifle, and it can be very injurious to you and the people around you, again, which is why you wear safety gear like glasses and hearing protection. Now, number three, I've only heard of once, and that was because the barrel extension failed on the end of a barrel. Well, I'll roll in some footage here, but a traditional barrel, the extension that goes into the upper receiver, that's not all one piece of the barrel. That is actually torqued on there. It's fitted appropriately, and it has to be in the right position and the right torque levels. If that thing is way off, it can cause pressure issues in there. It can actually fracture or come completely off, causing a catastrophic detonation inside the chamber. And number four is going to be it fired out of battery. So everything is supposed to work at the appropriate time in your rifle. From when that bolt comes forward, it locks up into the chamber, detonates that round, it unlocks, it cycles, all that stuff. If everything is not working at the exact right time, or say the bolt is a little bit out of battery or something, it can cause that casing there to rupture in the rear end and push all of that pressure into the receiver rather than down the barrel, up the gas port, and work through that direct impingement system like it's supposed to. Again, this is where you see catastrophic failures and fractures along the top of your AR receiver, or it could possibly blow the thing in two, or blow the lugs off the bolt. It can break the bolt in here. I'll roll pictures in of all this stuff, but it can be catastrophic, expensive, and again, very dangerous. And the last one we're going to talk about today, and this is not an exhaustive list because there are plenty of other things that could go wrong, but this is a squib load. This is where you get, if you don't know what a squib load is, an underpowered cartridge where the actual bullet or the projectile doesn't make it all the way down the barrel. Then you chamber the next round, which is a full load. You pull the trigger, it sends the bullet down there, but it meets that round that's still in the barrel. This causes that overpressure, and again is likely going to fracture that barrel and literally split it in half, or do the like cartoon mushroom thing. Again, very dangerous, gonna probably destroy the barrel at least, if not the entire upper receiver. That happens a lot in the competition world with squib loads on pistols and stuff like that. Not as common in the rifle world from my experience, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on, because you will feel that weak cycle if you get a squib round. So it'll just feel very light, almost like the round didn't go off, or maybe it won't cycle all the way. Anytime you feel that, you need to stop and clear that out of the barrel before you proceed any further. And knowing all those things, what do we need to look for when it comes to choosing the barrel for your build? Number one is going to be a quality name brand. So not to say that newer companies can't have really good stuff, but look for a brand that has some experience or some users out there that have had good luck with it. You don't want to buy the most bargain based, don't know what the materials are, and God forbid, don't even know if the thing was made appropriately. When it comes to the materials, you're probably going to be looking for 4150 chromoly vanadium. That's going to be that really high rate of fire or machine gun grade steel. It's going to last probably tens of thousands of rounds if you've cared for it and broken it in properly. And it's going to maintain accuracy for a very long time. You can also get 416R stainless, which has a little bit better rifling in it. It's known for being more accurate, but it doesn't last as long. In fact, most of them won't last half as long as a chrome moly vanadium barrel, but there are ones that will give you an extended life, such as the Blackout Defense 416R barrels, because they're nitride treated, and they're made a little bit differently to extend the accuracy and barrel life without raising the cost too much. So if you're looking for ultimate in accuracy, 416R might be the way to go. Chrome moly vanadium for that high rate or suppressed fire. You also need to look for the chambering and the twist rate on it. Now, quality barrel manufacturers are going to have this listed right on the barrel somewhere. It's going to say whether it's 5.56, 223, 223 wild, and it's also going to have the twist rate, whether it's 1 in 7, 1 in 8, 1 in 9, 1 in whatever you are looking for your intended purpose. Now, if you don't know what that twist rate means, that's basically an inch rating per twist. So 1 in 8 means it's going to take 8 inches of barrel for that round as it's going down the barrel to twist 1 complete revolution. That's really all that means. If you want to get into that, you have to look at the ballistics and the weight of the round, because that twist rate is going to determine how accurate that round is, how far it's going to go, and some of the impact it's going to hit with. But you can go down the rabbit hole on that stuff on your own, because there is a lot to learn when it comes to that. My next up is going to be the bolt and carrier group. And this seems to be a place where I see a lot of people trying to skimp or save money. Now, this is not a good place to save money. Get the best bolt you can for the amount of money that you have to spend, because you cannot afford to buy it twice or to have a catastrophic failure. There are a few things you want to look for in a good bolt. One is going to be, you want an M16 style bolt, where is the full original carrier housing. It hasn't been shaved or shortened or cut out anywhere, unless you need a lightened bolt and carrier or something like that for, say, competitive shooting, or because you're trying to tune down your undergassed rifle. But 99.999% of the time, we're going to want an M16 style bolt that's built to mil spec with certain other attributes. The other things we are looking for in a bolt and carrier group is we want the gas key to use grade 8 hardware. So those 2 screws on the top of that gas key that keep that thing on there should be grade 8. So grade 8 fasteners are like what they use in high torque, like racing motors and stuff, to keep everything together in there. That's the same thing you want in there, because that gas key takes a lot of force from that gas system operating. You're also going to want to make sure that it is properly staked so those can never back out. It's pretty easy to tell, because there's going to be 2 impressions on each, one on each side of that screw, and they're going to be hammered into that screw so it can't come out. As far as the materials go, you're going to have several different options. For the bolt itself, Carpenter 158 has a great reputation. It is an insanely strong steel, but you can also get away with 9310. As far as the carrier goes, 9310, 8620, depending on heat treating and all that different stuff, are going to be suitable for the carrier. Even on the bolt itself, I've got Carpenter 158 and I've got 9310 bolts, and I've never had problems with either. But you're going to look for those. You're also going to want to look to see if that bolt is marked either MP or HPI. Now, what those stand for are magnetic particle inspected and high pressure tested. If you don't know what that is, a high pressure test, they throw an overpowered round in there, shoot that bolt, and then they throw a material on there that's magnetic to see if there are any fractures or micro fractures in there. Much like magnafluxing an engine block, if you've ever rebuilt engines, you're looking for little tiny stress fractures. At minimum, you want magnetic particle inspected. If you can afford it and if it's available, you want HPI and MP. The last thing on the bolts is get one with a good coating that has some lubricity properties and it's easy to clean. It just makes your life easier. Usually they're not that much more expensive, whether it's nitrided or chromed or NP3'd or whatever. Find one that's got a good coating like that on it, because it's going to run a little bit better usually, and it is so much of a time saver when it comes to cleaning that rifle after you've spent a day out on the range. And remember, this thing right here, the bolt, this is the heart of your rifle. If you buy a cheap one and it stops pumping, you might stop pumping as well, because if that ain't working, your rifle ain't working. And next up is the gas block. Now, this is not as important as the bolt or the barrel, in my opinion, as long as you get a good quality one again. But there are different varying levels and adjustable styles and all that stuff out there when it comes to a gas block. Get a good one. They are not that expensive. You can get really good gas blocks for not much money. Even like Aero Precision has their adjustable gas blocks out now. I've got thousands of rounds through them. I pretty much put those on all of my builds now. They have never failed me. You can tune that thing in so it runs absolutely perfect and sweet and reliable. And I think they've got them like 69 bucks. You can find them on sale for 49 and 59 sometimes. It's not as important, but it can be very important if you have a very overgassed barrel. And the last one for me, before we talk about making your maybe more budget rifle feel a little better, is gonna be the rail. So rails can get stupid expensive, like well over 500 bucks, depending on the material and the manufacturer. But there are a couple of things you wanna look for, because this is another area where people try to really skimp and save money. The first thing I'm gonna say is look for good fasteners. Again, you want the biggest bolts at the highest grade you can. They don't have to be grade 8 hardware, but you definitely want something that's gonna take a beating, take the pressure of whatever you're gonna be doing with your rifle out there. The next thing is you're gonna want some form of anti-rotation on that rail, whether it's like what Arrow does with their enhanced uppers, where it's actually part of the upper and it's screwed into it so it can't move at all, whether it's some form of overlapping nubs that go over the upper receiver, like a lot of companies do, from that, keep that rail from rotating, or Blackout Defense that uses 2 stainless steel dowels that actually index into the upper. You want some form of anti-rotation on there, because clamshell designs just suck. They don't work, they loosen up over time. I've personally seen them just completely twist around on you. And remember, you're likely gonna have a front sight on the end of that rail somewhere. So if your rail can twist and it's off 10, 20, 30 degrees, there ain't enough Kentucky windage in the world that's gonna fix that. Well, now let's get into how to make your rifle feel a little bit better if it's loosey-goosey like this one here. One of the best things you can do is get a couple of these rubber inserts right here. Like I said, I'll have parts, links, and all this stuff at the build list with some promo codes and stuff. This just fits down in the lower receiver, goes behind the takedown pin, and changes the entire feel of that rifle, makes the upper and lower nice and taut without over pressurizing it and causing that carrier to be at a weird angle as it's going back and forth through that buffer tube. The next thing I would say to make your rifle feel completely different is get a nice grip, whether it's the Bravo Company Gunfighters, the Magpul K2s are my favorite. Something that has a really nice texture, less of an aggressive angle than that standard ugly A2 finger grip one. That thing is just terrible, not meant for the modern shooting style. But spend the 20 or 25 bucks, if they're even that expensive right now, to get a good grip. Because think about it, your hand is going to be on that grip, whether it's all day if you're at a training class or a lot out there on the range. It's going to make a bigger difference in the feel of that overall rifle than it is between, say, a Magpul stock and a BCM stock or whatever else you got out there, because that's what your hand is touching the entire time you're indexing the rifle. And some of you may disagree with me on this one, but get an extended trigger guard if your rifle didn't come with one. They're like 19 or 20 bucks, something like that. They open the trigger guard up. They're a little bit easier to get your finger in if it's gloved. They have a better appealing look to them. It's just one of those things that can make your rifle look and feel a little bit better at a pretty decent cost. This is one I think a lot of people don't know about or forget to do about. Dry lube right here. So you should not only be using this on your magazines, whether it's a rifle or a pistol. You don't want to use wet lube on your mags, right? Well, you don't want to put a ton of wet lube in your buffer assembly, your buffer tube, any of that. What you can do is clean those items out really well and use something like this Otis dry lube. Spray it on there, not a heavy coat, just lightly squirt on the spring, on the buffer, and then maybe a squirt or two up into the tube, let it dry out. And it is going to dry off, but it's going to be a very nice lubrication to have on there, and it's going to change the sound and possibly a little bit of the feel that your buffer is going to have as it's going back and forth and working the action on there. I don't know if you've ever grabbed an AR and charged it and it sounds like an old cash register where it's just like and it goes back and forth. This is going to alleviate a little bit of that because it's going to allow it to run more smoothly. It's not really going to improve the function at all per se, but it's going to improve the sound and the feel as you're sitting there with that thing next to your ear and running it as fast as you can out on the range mag dumping. And these next two are optional and maybe a little bit expensive, so only if you can afford it, but they really do change the overall feel and function of these when you are working your rifle out on the range. That's going to be a good safety selector. My favorites are the Radians. They've got a great feel to them. They're ambidextrous, not too expensive, but they do really just change the overall feel and function when you are manipulating your rifle out on the range. Lastly, the trigger. If you can afford a nicer trigger, 100, 125 bucks, but then you can go all the way up to like 400 and 500 for certain models, that really just changes how this thing is going to run, from the speed to the feel, the function. The take up, the slop of the mil-spec stuff isn't everybody's favorite, but it can get a little bit costly. However, it does really feel nice. Well, I hope that helps some of you out, and feel free to disagree with me on any of those, because it seems to be in the world of rifles and pistols, everybody's got their favorite brand, their favorite material, or their experience. So it's always good to hear different people's experiences with different products, different brands, and different styles of parts. A huge thank you to HRT Tactical for sponsoring today's video. Huge thank you to my Patreons, massive support structure there. If you want to support me in any way, the best things you can do is like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below. You can use any of the affiliate links down below, because that's how I keep the channel going here. Join the Patreon, any of that stuff should you wish. You guys get out there on the range, have some fun. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you all on the next one.